Every time I watch Zootopia, my eye catches new characters that I didn't see the previous time. I then start to think each one of these animals needed to be created to be unique and populate this amazing city. Add to that, they had to walk on two legs and wear clothes. Try fitting a tail through a pair of khakis. It's not easy. To talk about characters, we joined Character Look and Development Supervisor Michelle Robinson, Head of Characters and Technical Animation Dave Komorowski, and Technical Supervisor Ernest Petty.
We have sheep, we have honey badgers, we have giraffes, we have foxes.
There's like hundreds of thousands of different characters.
And we need to make them look like there's something that's real, that's breathing, that is touchable.
That's my job.
To create the characters of Zootopia, we start out with artwork. Corey Loftus, our character designer, provides these beautiful drawings. Then we step into the modeling phase. Our modelers will take those drawings and recreate sculptures within the computer.
And then those sculptures come to my department, and we need to go in there and paint the colors and add texture and put the fur on them.
What did you find was the main differences between animal fur and human hair?
We discovered it wasn't, one additional problem moving from hair to fur. It was, as many problems as we had species of animals. Every animal's hair is different in its color, in its structure, how shiny it is, how rough it is.
For example, the polar bear fur is pretty special. It's sort of transparent with a kind of a hollow core.
I was pretty surprised by that.
I think there was another challenge just in how much fur there was on these characters. The humans we've done in the past, yeah, they have a head of hair, and the hair can be really long, but there's a few 100,000 hairs there.
So fluffy. Elsa had 400,000 hairs?
On her head, yeah.
I think Nick and Judy both had over 2 million hairs on their body. And then when you get to the giraffe, it's got over 9 million hairs.
So this is an animal world. Who makes their clothes?
Well, yeah, we did have to kind of decide whether at every scale, did they have tiny little factories for the mice where they made tiny little clothes, or did they all shop at some general fabric store?
We're used to clothes that fit well on humans, but a nice shirt won't drape or feel right on a fox who has shoulders that are sloping down differently. A lot of different aspects really challenged what our normal sense of tailoring clothing and how it will work on these types of characters.
Some of the characters couldn't wear pants because their legs were so short, so they ended up only wearing shorts. But then when you cut out a little outfit for a mouse, it's going to be pretty stiff. But if you cut out a pair of pants for an elephant, it's actually going to feel like a tent because there's so much of it.
Yeah, and how do you tailor a shirt for a camel?
Or how do you put a T-shirt over a moose's head?
Challenges. Yes. How did fashion play a role in all of this?
It certainly ties into their personality. So there are characters like the mayor with his, really clean, sharp suit, as opposed to Bellwether in the beginning, where she's a little bit kind of frumpy, and eventually over time she becomes more powerful in the suits that she wears. It's a subtle color change.
And what about Nick?
Yeah, well, his like slightly off colors and loose tie, and his, they kind of convey like sly/con man.
It's called a hustle, sweetheart, and I'm not the liar. He is.
Well, I remember also with the fashion challenge, there was also a big technology challenge. I mean, if you take your big challenge in the movie and it's saying there's fur everywhere, that impacts every department pretty much across the entire show. We had to write a new, what's called a shader, to basically make light travel through the hair in a realistic way, which is something that we never needed to focus on before and had not been able to do.
The last time we had really done a movie with talking animals was Bolt.
And back in Bolt days as well, he wasn't wearing any clothing at the time.
Right.
I do recall there was a few scenes where Bolt had a collar on him.
Yeah.
That one collar caused a lot of sleepless nights and a long time just solving that one little problem. Now we fast forward to today, and we have wet, furry characters running in the rain with wind.
On top of trains.
On top of trains.
Yep.
All of that we could maybe do for a single character for a special scene sometime in the past, but to do it throughout the entire movie at this sort of scope and scale is something that we could not have done even a couple years ago. What would you say is the most fun part of working on this movie?
I really enjoyed the process of working on the yak. thought he was a great character. I think he's really fun.
A lot of little details.
I love the character Clawhauser. He's my favorite character. He's a cheetah that's lost his way a little bit. He sits around and eats donuts, and, you know, I kind of relate to that.
I think the variety for me is what really made it unique. Every character was a different challenge and a different problem, and when you solved one, the next one could be almost completely different. Zootopia, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
There's so many little details. Getting through it all and looking at it, it was a great experience.
I can't help but to believe the world of Zootopia is a real place, even though I know it's an animated world. The lighting, architecture, design, even the way the camera moves in every shot gives me the feeling that I'm actually there. The environment created by the team at Walt Disney Animation Studios is a perfect blend of creativity, technology, artistry, and a lot of imagination. Here to give us some insight on the environments of Zootopia are production designer Dave Getz, director of cinematography, layout, Nathan Warner, director of cinematography, lighting, Brian Leach, set extension supervisor John Murrah, art director of environments Matthias Lechner, head of environments Hans-Org Keim, and visual effects supervisor Scott.
Which of you heard about Zootopia when it first started? What made you interested in working on the project?
For me, the first thing they told me was this will not be simple. There's 1,800 plus shots. There's probably about 25 in the entire movie that are actually static. My mouth dropped and I said, please, please sign me up.
Yeah, the complexity and the characters are amazing, and I just wanted to see all that come to life.
Yeah, for me, it was the variety of different environments. We had 6 unique habitats and 4 different climate zones. So it was a nice challenge for me just to get this all up on the screen.
Can you talk about the scale and scope of the different environments?
I think one of the big challenges of it, and one of the most interesting things about it is, you know, in this world where all animals live together, a mouse needs to be able to cross the street with an elephant, and what does that look like? It's really the fun of developing systems that allow all these different size animals to live together.
I thought it was interesting to think about if you see a town or cars, you will first of all think about our human scale. So we actually ended up using wildebeests as sort of an equivalent for the humans. And then there will be the, say, cars for wildebeests, there'll be cars for elephants, cars for mice.
Yeah, there almost wasn't a shot on the movie that scale wasn't important for us. Even our 2 main characters are fairly different. But certainly, without a doubt, the most challenging sequence for scale is going to be the chase through Rodentia.
I am in pursuit!
It starts in downtown. That transition and surprise of here we are in a miniature place, that's difficult to do. So early on, just to punish ourselves, decided to borrow a friend's hamster, put him in a little tiny city, and then said, let's try to film this with low light. And of course, a hamster's gonna do what a hamster wants to do. And it let our artists see just how difficult this would be to film in real life, and how the character would be coming in and out of focus when they decide to move quickly, as little rodents do.
Sorry, coming through. Excuse me.
As far as the complexity of building out the world itself, can you talk about how the crew was able to get the environments on screen?
Yeah, I remember when I first came on the show, so we started to build Zootopia in 3D, really only as a reference piece at first, but then we ended up getting shots that we needed that model for. That was the one close-up shot we have where we're flying through the city. I think that helped the detail that is going to make it look real.
Yeah, and one of the things that went into that was color coding the various habitats. So if it's oranges, yellows, you know you're in desert. If it's cool green, you know you're in rainforest.
One discussion that came up all the time was, what's the sky gonna do? As we go from Sahara Square to Tundra Town, should Tundra Town be constantly in a state of blizzard? Or do we respect that it is a city in one place with manufactured climates, which is what it really is?
I think there was some sleight of hand, too, when we kind of wiped screen with blowing snow, and then all of a sudden, the sky's crisper blue, it's like...
What does it really mean to keep the scene alive?
I really feel like it's that subtle movement in the environment, whether it's in the trees or, like dappled shadows on the ground, and all of a sudden, you feel like it's a living place.
I thought of the materials that I was stepping on. So when we were in the snow, our camera is very slow. When we're in the city, every shot is moving, trying to create that feeling that somebody's in a crowd of people.
Also having little stories happening that are not part of the main storyline, but there's a little couple of mice talking to each other over there. There's like some elephants in the background.
Look at me, I'm gonna move to Zootopia.
And I think all these little backstories make the whole thing feel alive.
Were there technical challenges that had to be overcome to make that all happen?
Our software really evolved quite a bit just for Zootopia. That we can basically almost handle an infinite amount of trees, which is pretty awesome.
Are there things on the show that you're particularly proud of?
For me, there was just so much diversity that's in the film. You know, the tundra town, the rainforest, and we have the desert. All that was fantastic.
Having spent a lot of time thinking about the look of downtown, designing these buildings, getting the set dressed with all the vegetation, and boy, they just turned out great, I think.
I just am amazed when I see the stuff come together, you know, and I work here, but I don't know how they did that.
I mean, it's a little bit like a childhood dream that came true, and you have an idea, and then there is the best artist in the world making that happen. I'm just happy with the whole thing.
Thank you all so much.
As an actor, I was cast as Judy. I provided her voice and even some of her personality. Being that she is animated, the other half of her acting was done by the animators. And together we brought Judy's performance to life. On Zootopia, a team of over 70 animators worked on every animal, from Nick to Judy to the tallest giraffe and the smallest Arctic shrew. Let's join co-head of animation Tony Smead and animation supervisors Ginnifer Hager, Bobby Huth, Kira Latomaki, Chad Sellers, and crowd supervisor Mo Alali as they give us some insight into their research and process of bringing the characters of Zootopia to life.
Hi, guys. So, when was the first time you guys heard of Zootopia, and what kind of drew you to it?
I remember seeing like an image of a tiger in like a sweater turtleneck thing, and it kind of reminded me of Tailspin, which that brought me back to my childhood and immediately engaged me in the project.
I remember hearing about it like just at lunch, just like an all animal movie, and I just thought, oh, that's right up my alley. Like I would love to work on that because that's all I drew as a kid was animals.
What it was for me is the complexity of the world. It was like not just about the animals, but having a world supporting those creatures in a very complex way.
A city built by animals,
Yeah.
you know, who walk on their hind legs with pants. Who doesn't want to animate that?
Finally, we gave some animals some pants. Like Donald didn't have pants.
When it comes to us, like we have to, you know, like really breathe life into these animals.
So you have to kind of like look at the animal and almost characterize how the animal moves. So really trying to exaggerate what that animal is. You had to find something that would help the animal thing kind of come across.
We're trying to figure out how do we make these animals that walk around on 2 legs feel not like a person, but like their animal counterparts that walk around on 4 legs.
People think I'm a kitty, but I'm really just a fox.
The moment that they're on high alert or frightened or something, you really start to see the nose twitch on Hopps or the ears go up, and that natural animal instinct just really starts to take over.
On Nick, it was the elbows out. I always felt human.
Yeah.
But if you bring the elbows in and keep them in, it looks more
like,
canine then.
Yeah, because their shoulders are actually on the sides of their body, right?
Yeah.
So I think that just, because they can actually do this, you know, but they can't, you know, lift their arms all around. And like in the beginning of this movie, I was thinking like, oh, we're gonna have just like a C curve for their back. Like that's how we're gonna make them feel animally. So I drew that for Byron and I sent it to him. And I was like, what do you think about this instead of what we had before, which is a very human looking body? And then he sent that drawing back with a squirrel back where the back, the immediate back is just a straight line. And then when it gets to the hips, it kind of like comes out like this. So you get this kind of S curve down the back. Whereas so they don't feel like they're slumped over, but that was like a revelation, the squirrel back.
Assignments? We'll sit in a sequence meeting with the director. We'll divvy out shots to everybody.
It's funny trying to figure out the animator who would be great for this shot.
I always kind of think of it like Tetris, like you're trying to get like
everything fit.
The exact right person for the exact right shot, and when you get that, you just feel so good. Like this is perfect.
It's great.
I feel great. The directors remind us of like the big picture too, because I think sometimes we get just really focused on just, oh, this is just my little shot, but they'll remind you like, oh, this is what happened in the sequence before, this is what happened after, and then they will get into the minutia of the shot, like all those details.
After grabbing all their research, all the info from the directors, we'll finally go into the computer.
And it's a really fun animation challenge because that's where we really shine, I think, is where something that should be impossible or doesn't exist and we have to make it believable.
So after issuing, each animator will go back and kind of take their shot. Some of us like to do thumbnail sketches, other people like to take reference.
Sometimes you just had to look up a video.
Although Chad did a valiant job of being Gazelle, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Wow, you are one hot dancer.
Yeah. His hips don't lie.
I don't think I ever saw
you ever will.
We can find it.
It's out there. Don't look for it, though.
It's better to just kind of get those golden poses in there that just tell you basically what your idea of the acting is.
You're probably gonna get a lot of notes, or the directors might have a totally different idea.
And it's just the same way a director would give an actor directions. After seeing the performance, he might get ideas based off of what you brought to the table.
Usually less is more.
Yeah. I think both Ginnifer and Jason brought such a great breadth to the lines.
Since they filmed them, we could see them
Yeah.
do the takes of all the different ways.
Seeing Ginnifer in the recording studio, there was like a bouncy quality to her performance. And so a lot of the animators would look at the reference of her and say, okay, we're gonna try to incorporate a lot of her gesturing just because it felt so natural for her character.
This little bundle of energy.
This is Zootopia. Anyone can be anything.
I almost feel like I can see exactly what Jason is doing.
Yeah.
And it translates to Nick.
Old flash, 100-yard dash. Flash, 100-yard dash. Buddy, it's nice to see you.
Hearing his voice come out of that fox just seemed like the perfect match. And you just hear it and you automatically can picture what Nick's doing. He's got that like half lid smile on his face, you know, and you don't have to do much with him. You can just let the line be what it is. Nick and Jason.
Yeah.
So once you've kind of got your scene approved, then that's really when you go in and put all the juice into it. And that's probably one of the funnest parts is when it's almost there and you're just like, oh, I could add this.
Definitely.
Oh, I could add this little thing.
You could probably honestly polish forever.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, there's that adage that animators never finish their shots, they only get them taken away.
I guess we just get it approved. A few weeks later.
After a few weeks, a few weeks go by.
And the director will usually see it in the polished phase and say, I give you this my blessing, it's approved, and we all clap.
I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I had a blast working on this show.
It should have been tougher than it was.
Yeah.
Disney magic.
It's Disney magic.